Hello everyone, this is FoxyPapaSmurf, or FPS Gamer for short, and today I'm bringing you another Halo 5 Forge map showcase. This one created by CenturionOmegaI. And at first it may look like a Hang 'em High remake, but he has actually taken a lot of assets from the Halo 2 version named Tombstone. We've seen a lot of remade maps recently, but I really feel that CenturionOmegaI has really set the bar for fidelity when it comes to recreating these classic maps. CenturionOmegaI, with his map Salvation, has done a really great job in bringing this classic map into Halo 5. The theme of this map is similar to the original in that it's somewhat of a construction zone or some sort of manufacturing plant of sorts. And although it may resemble very closely the original map, there are quite a few differences that Halo 5 naturally brings to the map that I think really make it play even better than the original. The Halo CE version was very large and very open, and while it was a classic, a lot of people didn't like that open layout, especially in the later games with longer range weaponry being a larger part of your standard weapon layout. But this map does a good job of mixing the geometry with the Halo 5 Spartan abilities. There's always a thin line when recreating a classic map in Halo 5 between being faithful to the original and making it play well. You'll see that all the major landmarks are in their original position, from the crane and the walkways and the boxes down to the flowing river that goes at the bottom of the map. The setting is also a little bit different. The Tombstone map was somewhat of a dusk or twilight time of day, and he chose to go for more of a midday feel with a light fog hovering over the map. I think it looks really cool. And he did a really good job of balancing that Forge budget and, as I mentioned previously, being faithful to the original while creating a map that's still fun in Halo 5. Even subtle details like pipes and broken walkways played a part in what made the map play the way it did, and he made sure that he brought those into the map as well. When recreating these maps, I find that these interior spaces are very difficult to replicate because it's easier to tell discrepancies between sizes in small corridors than it is on very large open maps. You could accidentally scale something like Blood Gulch a little bit too big and no one would really notice, whereas if you scaled this hallway a little bit too long, it would be a glaring flaw that people would pick up on immediately. Weapon placement is also very similar. There are a lot more weapons available to the player in Halo 5, and you obviously don't want to just leave those weapons out only because they weren't in the original. But he was also very methodical, I could tell, in where he put those new weapons and how they would affect the balance of the map. Again, the level of detail observed here is very, very good. There isn't really a blank wall on this map. Even the drop downs and jump ups that were available to the player in the original made their way into this map. A big part of what makes the Halo 5 multiplayer scene so fun is this ability to get to places very quickly due to the Spartan abilities, and that did exist in the original. Honestly, I think it was more prominent here than on almost any other Halo 2 map I've ever seen. There were lots of jump ups, and every time you played this map you discovered something new that you could do to give you some sort of positional advantage. So in that regard, this was a very, very good map to bring into Halo 5. However, there are things you could do now that you weren't able to do before. There are gaps that you can clear that you obviously couldn't dream of making it across before, but also these platforms are now accessible to the player from the first floor, which was a very, very big part of what made this map a little frustrating at times, was spawning on the bottom and essentially having to wait for a good spawn before you can really be competitive. That was a little bit frustrating, and I think the ability to now clamber up onto those platforms from a moderate number of locations helps to remedy that. Something that he added that has never been in the map before is the ability to interact with this crane. By pressing the button inside the control room, you'll see the crane starts to rotate clockwise. And he said this was to be used strategically and capture the flag variants especially to shorten that gap between the bases. Now obviously if there's a flag on either side, you want to use this in a strategic way so that you're not giving the enemy team access to your flag. The gameplay was absolutely phenomenal. We played Slayer and Strongholds and Capture the Flag, and they all worked great. Even a few chaotic games of three-way Strongholds played really, really well. Lifespans were very short, but despite that, it was still a blast to play on. it's interesting how the Spartan abilities in Halo 5 can dramatically shrink the way a map plays. I remember playing this map in Halo 1 and it seeming like an absolutely enormous map. I remember playing it and wondering, why are there no vehicles? It takes forever to get from one corner of the map to the other. But now, if you sprint and you know where to jump to, you can get from one corner to the other in a matter of seconds. So this went from being a map that was strictly for big team to a map that you could very comfortably play with only 4v4. Or as we played it, 4v4v4, which honestly was a lot of fun. The map is also still very, very grenade happy. There are a lot of locations where you can strategically place a grenade. Your shields are always down and they're never recharging, which can be fun, don't get me wrong, but you want to be careful with the number of people you put on this map because it can get very chaotic very quickly. We had an absolute blast on this map. A big shout out to CenturionOmegaI for giving us this awesome recreation. I highly recommend giving it a download. You can find it in my bookmarks. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, friend me on Xbox Live or CenturionOmegaI. His name tag is in the description. And find this map as well as many others in my file share. And I hope to catch you guys in the next one.